All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, every single week on the Teacher Lady Show, we have a new topic, and this week's topic is all about homelessness. And of course, we're using picture books to help us talk about it, okay? Today's Behind the Book review is going to be on the story Shelter in Our Car. If you have not done so, be sure to check out the read aloud first so that as I go through the different parts of this story, you will have proper context, okay? In this Behind the Book review, I will be going over the glows, what I think was done well, the grows, what I think could have been done differently, who this book is for, and how do you use it as a resource to have an uncomfortable conversation with your child. All in this episode of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. Also on Friday, we have the Teacher Lady Speaks, which is where I give resources and insights, best practice advice, and so much more around this topic. And that episode is really dedicated to families that are currently in transition and potentially homeless, as well as families who want their children to be more compassionate towards that community. But for now, we're going to go ahead and jump into this Behind the Book review. Summary in my own words. Shelter in Our Car is the real life experience of Zeddy and her mother, who came to America from Jamaica and who struggled to find housing stability and ended up living in their car as a result of that. The author does an excellent job at describing what those experiences were for Zeddy and how hard it was, and even some reasoning as to why they were in this situation. So it is a person's life story. It is a very real story for a lot of people. And I appreciate that the author did not shy away from the truth and the pain points of the story. Take home message and target age group. I really just think overall this book was created because there are other children living in their car. This is a very real experience for a lot of people in our country. So often we like to think of this as a third world country issue, or, poor countries, or this country or that country. But right here in the United States of America, we have tons of families who are experiencing the same struggle, trying to decide between sleeping in their car or going to a shelter, trying to figure out what to do if the shelter is full, where do they put their stuff, where do they shower, and so much more. And so I think more than a take-home message, it's a way for children who are going through transitions to be seen and to feel understood. I also think that it's a way for children who are not in these situations to start to empathize with people who are. In terms of target age group, it's a more complex subject to understand. And that is because unless you are experiencing it, it's not really something that comes up much. I would say 6 years old would be a safe bet to really start to have some conversations around living in your car, around going through transitional periods. That would be my, I would say, overall guess for this book. Who this book is for. I really think it's for children who are going through transitions, children who are experiencing homelessness, families who are experiencing homelessness. I also think that it's really beneficial for those children who are entitled, who feel like, maybe they have negative attitudes or perspectives towards people who are going through tough and hard situations, children who might lack empathy or compassion because they don't truly understand what it's like. All of those children can benefit from this book, okay? So having it available as a resource is going to be an excellent idea. Glows. For me, the glow really is the walkthrough of the story. We get a pretty good picture of what it means to be ZD at this point in her life, what school feels like, what it feels like to be left out and mistreated and laughed at because you don't have as much as the next person. Even the truth and the honesty around not even being able to park certain places or stay in your car for certain times because you will be harassed. I feel like children need to understand perspectives. I think that there is a very thin line between overdoing it and overwhelming a child and being honest. And for me, this book met it perfectly. I don't feel like it was too much. I felt like it was very honest. It was sad, of course, because it's a sad story, but it was very well made. The book for me is a glow. I think that it's hard to share topics like this. And I think that it is very difficult to find books that come from the perspective of the child experiencing that pain point. So it was very well done. The only grow that I would have for this book is potentially the photos. The pictures are very abstract. I think that when you have young children, images being clear would really help them to understand what is going on in the book. So that would just be my only grow for this story, but the words themselves extremely powerful. And the message was clear regardless of how abstract those photos were. Discussion points to have with your child. If your child is experiencing a transitional period, just read and listen. Read, pause, and listen. Read, pause, listen, and love. Read, pause, listen, and remind them it's temporary. Read, pause, listen, and let them know that you will be okay. Read, pause, listen, and let them know that you will be safe. Read, pause, and listen. That would be how I approach our current situation in terms of experiencing transition by way of this book. The other side of this is for children who are not experiencing that transition, who do not understand it. I would have a conversation around what it's like. I would have a conversation around some of the very real points that were made. It wasn't that she didn't want to work. She was in school and she was working temporary jobs, but she was not making enough money to get a place. When you go to apply for an apartment, you have to show so much work history. You have to show proof of consistent income. Most places want you to make 3 times whatever the rent is, and that just isn't realistic for a lot of people. And so pausing in between pages to hold a conversation about why a person might be in this situation is very, very important. Also, to be very honest, and let your child know we're all kind of one decision away from being in this same situation. Like if our job were to just randomly let us go with no notice and no severance, it would be very difficult for us to maintain this house because we need to move away from thinking that certain people are the burden on the society or you need to work harder or be stronger or whatever, and start to realize that a lot of this is capitalism's issue. A lot of this is society's issue, and that we cannot have extremely rich people without people who are extremely impoverished. It does not work that way. So read this book from the lens of compassion and answer the questions that come up as they come up. Overall, this book definitely made me cry. It definitely made me reflect on my own life. I remember going through a lot of homelessness at different points in my life. I'm not there anymore, but it definitely helped me to reflect. And as I was experiencing some of these transitional periods in my life, even being a teenager, I would have appreciated this book as a resource because we never want to feel like we're the only one. We never want to feel like our situation is the only one that's so bad and that we'll never get out of it. I feel like having books and the power behind books, which is why I became an author and an illustrator, the true gold in stories is to let children know what is possible, to let them know that their situation mirrors somebody else's situation, that they are seen and that they should be represented. And for some children, this is what representation looks like because that is their life. That is their livelihood for the time being. I'm going to encourage you to check out all the things. Check out my website. Look at the description for the link to this story. Thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, and for being part of this book loving community. Until next time, you remember to enjoy the moment, or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.